Did you know that there's a scene in Dragon Ball Z where Piccolo starts yelling the name of a musical instrument while shooting ki blasts? No, I'm not making that up. This is 100% true. And that's also one of the things that I'm going to be talking about in today's video. That's because on this edition of Dragon Ball Dictionary, I'm going to be breaking down some of the franchise's most ridiculous and unique yells, exclamations, and battle cries. And no, we're not talking about how the characters in Dragon Ball like to yell in order to power up. We're going deeper than that, and I think I may even cover one or two things that you may not have even noticed. So make sure to watch until the end, and let's get into it. Hey guys, my name's Tony, and here on The Anime Linguist, I use my knowledge of the Japanese language to break down anime and especially Dragon Ball. So if you're into that kind of thing, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. Let's begin with some of the most objectively absurd battle cries in the entire Dragon Ball franchise. These can be heard in the Dragon Ball Z movie Dead Zone. In this movie, Garlic Jr.'s three henchmen, Jinja, Nikki, and Sancho, can be heard saying some pretty wacky things before they change into their more powerful forms. Before I tell you what each of these characters shout out, though, I just wanted to set this up by telling you that everything they shout out has something to do with their name. So first up, we have Jinja. And Jinja's name is of course based on the English word ginger. What Jinja says before transforming is shogayaki, and shogayaki is the Japanese name for the dish ginger pork. Shogayaki! Next up we have Nikki, and Nikki's name is based on the Japanese word for cinnamon, Nikki. What Nikki shouts out is nodoame, which means throat lozenge or cough drop. I know this seems especially random, and it kinda is, but actually there's a reason for this. The reason is that in Japan it's pretty common to see cinnamon-flavored cough drops. And lastly, we have Sancho, whose name is based on the Japanese spice Sancho. He shouts out unaju, which is a type of grilled eel dish that is often eaten with the spice Sancho. Now, this isn't one of my dub comparison videos, but since we're talking about Dead Zone, and I'm probably never going to be talking about Dead Zone again, let's look at how the English dub handled this very unique sequence. Gingerbread. Okay, so Ginger says gingerbread. That makes total sense. A+. Tutti frutti! Tutti frutti! All right, that's a creative choice that I was not expecting, but I'm going to give it an A+ nonetheless because it made me laugh. Cheese! Cheese? Cheese. Okay, well, this was definitely a creative choice, and I think that they were going with a general holiday spice kind of theme here because they went with ginger and gingerbread and tutti frutti and cinnamon, and now Japanese spice Sancho with cheese. It's not normally something that people associate together, but nevertheless, like I said, it's pretty creative and random, and it's definitely going to be something that I'm going to think back to, and it's going to keep making me laugh. So for that, I'm just going to give it another A+. Now, before we move on, I want to clear up something, and I want to say that what I'm actually talking about today isn't simply just battle cries or yells. It's actually something called kakegoe in Japanese. Kakegoe is a really interesting word that can be used to refer to several things, including yells that are used for encouragement, kiai, cheers, shouts used during physical activities in order to keep timing, and I could keep going. For example, I've even seen Japanese Dragon Ball fans refer to what Goku says before he shoots the Kamehameha, the Kamehameha, as a kakegoe. Me ho me ho. Our next example of an interesting kakegoe takes us to episode 14 of Dragon Ball GT. In this episode, Goku and Pan have to shoot Ki Blast at exactly the same time in order to defeat Rudo, or Lord Lude as he's known in English. However, in order to synchronize their Ki Blast so it hits at the exact same time, they need to do a countdown. But the problem is that Goku is not very smart, he's not good with numbers, so he's not good at doing a numerical countdown. So that plan doesn't work out, but Goku proposes something else. And that chant is Katsudon Tendon Oyakodon, All three of these are types of Japanese rice bowl dishes. The first one is katsudon, which is a pork cutlet rice bowl. The next one is tendon, which is a tempura rice bowl. And the last one is oyakodon, which is a type of rice bowl that features chicken and egg. So Goku and Pan use this ridiculous little chant, and they succeed in taking down Rudo. But while we're here, I might as well show you what the English dub did with this scene.
Why don't we say pepper pot, pickle pot, purple pot?
Pepper pot, pickle pot, purple pot. Okay, I guess this is some kind of tongue twister that I've never heard of. If it is, let me know down in the comments because I'm just not aware of it. This is the first time I've ever heard of it. Unfortunately, this erases the joke that is in the original Japanese, which is about how Goku can't count, but he loves food, so he can just rattle off these food names without any problem. This one isn't really about that. I don't know. Like I said, it's just some random tongue twister, so oh well. So the thing about the first two examples, the one from Dead Zone and the one from GT, is that these are examples of kakegoe that were scripted. They had to have been in the script because they related to the character in some way or to what was going on in the story. However, there's also a lot of examples of completely unscripted kakegoe. I've seen and read multiple interviews with the Japanese voice actors of Dragon Ball where they say that the yells, the battle cries that they say in the battle scenes are often not scripted. Yes, specific lines that they have to say, technique names, and some of the yells are scripted, but a lot of just the random like ooh, ah, ooh, what, da, da, wah, wah, all that kind of stuff is just completely improvised by the voice actors. At least this was the case in the Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z animes. Anyway, because the Japanese voice actors for Dragon Ball had quite a bit of freedom when it came to the battle scenes, sometimes you got some pretty interesting kakegoe or battle cries or yells. And that brings us to the thing that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, how Piccolo in one specific battle scene yells out the name of a musical instrument. In an interview with the Japanese TV show, Toshio Furukawa, the voice actor of Piccolo, explained that sometimes when they were in these recording sessions, he would run out of these kakegoe, or these battle cries or yells. So of course he'd run through all the typical all that kind of stuff. But sometimes when he ran out of ideas, he would just look around the room and start saying the names of the things that he saw. And in one specific case, there must have been a piano in the room or within viewing distance of where he was, because he started saying piano, 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 piano in a recording, and that actually made it into Dragon Ball Z. This happens in episode 94 of Dragon Ball Z. It's when Piccolo fights Frieza in his fourth form in order to buy Goku some time while he gathers the energy for the Genki Dama. First, I'm going to show you a clip from the Japanese TV show that I mentioned. The Japanese TV show found the clip, and when Piccolo says piano, 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 you can actually see the text pop up on the screen. Note, the video quality for this clip is really bad and the audio isn't that great either. I know, between the bad audio quality, the effects on Piccolo's voice, the sound effects, the music, it's really, really hard to make out when Piccolo says piano. So I'm going to show you a clean version. If I hadn't watched that interview with Furukawa and then watched that Japanese TV show clip where they confirm that he's saying it, I would not have noticed it. And so I highly suspect that very, very few people have noticed this on their own. The ones that know have heard about this or watched that TV show clip, and then they look for it and then go, oh, okay, yeah, I can kind of hear it, because you can barely make out what he's saying. But it's an interesting piece of trivia nonetheless. In that same interview, chawan and natto are also brought up as examples of these improvised kakegoe. Chawan means rice bowl, like that thing that you put rice into, and natto means fermented soybeans. Now here's the thing, the chawan and natto thing might have just been jokes. Nevertheless, I went back and started listening to Piccolo's fights, and even though I wasn't able to find natto, I was able to find something that sounded kind of like chawan. However, after listening very closely to Piccolo's kakegoe, his battle cries during fights, I came to the conclusion that Piccolo has some of the most unique battle cries of the entire cast. I'm sure some of the other characters have some funny ones too, but Piccolo has some pretty fun ones. Like, listen to this. It seems like Furukawa may have really enjoyed just coming up with these random noises and yells for Piccolo during his fights. So next time you're watching Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z in Japanese, pay close attention to what these characters are shouting out and grunting during their fights. Because you may just be able to track down that moment when Piccolo says rice bowl, or when he says fermented soybeans, or maybe you'll come across some other random thing that Piccolo or some other character says. And again, if you find anything really interesting, let me know down in the comments.